When we say personalized content for someone, what role do you see data and AI, say data models, or the way you offer this content? How is data and AI shaping the overall content customization or content personalization?
Data and AI are unquestionably transforming how we deliver personalized, learner-centric content. The effectiveness of it, however, hinges on how well we manage and integrate both data and AI. Because AI doesn't function in isolation. It requires high-quality, well-organized data. That starts with accurately classifying and tagging data to form a solid foundation for personalization.
There might be some challenges that have come up at an individual level or within groups that are going through those modules themselves, and then finding ways to keep those learners on track so they can move through each progressive part of the program is really something that we're focusing on, but we can bring to the table for our partners as well.
Welcome to a new episode of the Fluid Intelligence podcast hosted by Factspan. My name is Abhiram. I lead the Europe business at Factspan, based here in London, and I'll be your host for today's session. Today, we are going to embark on a topic which is pretty relevant to each one of us, given that we are on a continuous learning path ourselves in this dynamic changing workforce. We are going to delve deep into the EdTech industry, and our topic for today is empowering personalized learning with the power of data and AI. Well, I have the pleasure of hosting not one, but two guests to discuss this fascinating topic with me. I have two guests from two different sides of the pond. First, let me introduce Miss Sowmya. Sowmya is based in New York, and she is a senior director for learning design solutions at Boundless Learning, which is a fast-growing digital learning platform. And I also have Joel from London, and he is a senior director in charge of partnership strategy and engagement. So we are with Sowmya and Joel, we are going to get two perspectives from different parts of the world in terms of how the space is evolving, what is the role of data and AI, what do partnerships mean in this space, and a lot more. Welcome to the show, folks. It's a pleasure to have you both. Let me start with the first question I have, and maybe we'll start with you, Sowmya. I think all of us today on this, the three of us, come from times when we, of course, got our formal education and even otherwise through physical platforms. And I think we all went to universities and we learned things the traditional way. And, of course, we still see that very relevant. But today we are in a world where this learning is sort of digital first, right? So you've got digital first platforms for learning. And I want to understand, keeping the persona of the user at the center, how have learner needs evolved in this digital first era? And secondly, why is it that continuous learning is so important today?
Our needs have been evolving rapidly in today's context of digital-first education. One of the biggest changes we're seeing is the demand for personalized learning. It's about learner-centric experiences that feel tailored just for them, aligned with their individual goals, learning styles, or at the pace at which they can best absorb content. It is no longer about one size fits all. It's about delivering what fits them. Another critical aspect is flexibility and accessibility. Learners now want solutions that fit seamlessly into their lives, whether that's attending in-person sessions or learning on the go through digital platforms, to choosing what best works for their unique situations. You never know, it's completely different for each learner. It could be time constraints, career demands, or even personal goals. Moreover, the shift to digital offers an unprecedented opportunity for people like us to deliver engaging and interactive content, moving beyond the traditional static formats. The level of interactivity that can be applied make learning more impactful. It also enables the learner to apply what they've learned, an opportunity to retain it long term. The heart of this all is the learners today are driving the demand for solutions that are dynamic, and solutions that are deeply customized. So continuous learning is more important than ever. It's not just about keeping up, it's about staying ahead, whether it's upskilling for a career, adapting to new technologies, or even just growing as an individual, both professionally or personally. Learning is key to staying relevant and thriving in today's fast paced world.
I might just add in there, Abhi, that, I think certainly learning has sort of become circular in the sense that, in the past, maybe it was right. I had my 3 or 4 year undergraduate degree done. It's off the list. I don't have to go back and do that ever again. And that's certainly changed because of the sort of continuous technological education we've seen, the sort of evolving demands from the employer perspective. And so I think the really exciting opportunity and where, organizations like Boundless Learning can help is helping universities quickly adapt to those changing demands in the labor force. And certainly their learners, their students are thinking about, well, if I'm going to invest resources, that's time, that's financial, that's all kinds of other resources as well. Is it worth this effort if I'm thinking about this is a step towards my career advancement and I need this degree or I need this course to get to that next stage of my career? And ideally, in the future, companies will get to a place where they can effectively, assess skills and competencies in real time as they look to hire new individuals into the organization. And if they become really good at testing for those skills and sort of capability acquisitions, they should be more open to different pathways to skills and competency attainment, which means there might not be that same monopoly on, that stamp of approval that 3 or 4 year degrees might have bestowed on graduates in the past. But it also means there's a broader pathway towards the best jobs and the best compensation and best career advancement for more individuals. So I'm sort of really excited about how this more dynamic space for higher education, which obviously is very much data infused as we look at how do we support individual learners in their different pathways, but also sort of understand how corporate demands are evolving and how they're becoming perhaps more open to different formats and pathways towards skills and competency acquisition. And then linking that back to the learner, which is it worth me doing this course? Is it worth me doing this degree? Because it will help me get my career, will help me advance my career, let's say.
Absolutely, Joel. Couldn't agree more. If I could add that the feedback loop is going to play such a crucial role in shaping this dynamic space. It's such a key element in aligning learner needs with the ever evolving learner and workplace demands.
I think both of you covered a lot of topics which sort of create a very nice part to some of my next questions. I want to start with the content bit that Sowmya you referred to while you answered this. Let's talk of content and how is this content being personalized today? So when we say personalized content for someone, what role do you see data and AI, say data models, or the way you offer this content? How is data and AI shaping the overall content customization or content personalization?
Data and AI are unquestionably transforming how we deliver personalized learner-centric content. The effectiveness of it, however, hinges on how well we manage and integrate both data and AI. Because AI doesn't function in isolation. It requires high quality, well-organized data. That starts with accurately classifying and tagging data to form a solid foundation for personalization. Right? So once the data is in order, custom AI models come into play. These models need to be continuously trained and refined to stay relevant and effective. Think of it this way. AI can analyze a learner's past interaction, performance, and preferences to recommend content that's uniquely suited to their needs. That's powerful. But here's the catch. Success in personalization isn't just about that. It's about how we capture the nuances and how we refine the models, and most importantly, how we embed AI ethically into the learning experience in ways that truly work for the learner. This process requires ongoing human involvement, from making decisions about which tools to use, to fine-tuning the models and ensuring everything aligns with what the learner actually needs. So end of the day, personalization is a combination of a technological process, which in itself is a partnership between human expertise and AI capabilities. And when done right, this collaboration can make learning experience more effective, relevant, and impactful for everyone.
Joel, your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, I love the idea. I mean, I've been thinking about adaptive learning for a really long time, and it's sort of difficult to deliver adaptive learning outside of more quantitative subjects, or historically, that's been the big challenge. And so when you think about how do we understand in real time the evolving needs of individual learners, and then provide them sort of an adapting orchestration of different types of microlearning that they can work through as they either going through their work day-to-day work, or that they're working through a program and complement degrees with short courses. I mean, it just feels like there's so much of a richer option or a set of options for learners today than when I first was coming through my undergraduate degree, and certainly even through my master's degree. And so I think what's exciting now is thinking about how do we understand that sort of end-to-end learner journey, that starts with when they first take an interest in an institution and or a specific program. How do we connect all that information or data that we capture and all the information that we sort of glean from candidates as they come into programs, as we learn about where they excel and where they have challenges as they work through their programs? How do we suggest additional content beyond those sort of degree programs as complements to their learner journey? And then, what happens in that, when we talked about before, sort of lifelong learning, what happens after they graduate, and how can organizations like Boundless Learning continue to work with academic partners to be lifelong partners to learners? And then obviously the next step in that is, how do you connect learners with their aspirational employers over time, or with the corporate sector? And so I think there's so many opportunities in that space. There's so much variety with regards to ways to understand and deliver learning at the individual level, that I think it's really, really exciting time to be in higher education globally.
Absolutely, Joel. And just to build on that, with a specific example from what we're working on right now, we're developing virtual assistants to address wide range of questions students often raise. These could be anything from clarification on course material to broader inquiries about your learning journey. For us, the real challenge and opportunity lie in creating an assistant that doesn't just answer questions, but learns and improves over time. So to achieve that, we're trying to integrate years of feedback and insights into its design, so that the tool is not only responsive, but also is truly effective in supporting the learners.
Yeah, it's sort of looking at behavioral data that we can use to nudge in a not an overly intrusive way, but in ways that feel helpful to the learner. Especially if you're not doing a full-time on-campus type of program or a course in an executive education context, where you're sort of able to disconnect from the day-to-day and just really be there to focus on the learning. If you're doing it in parallel to something else, it's helpful to have those reminders, but they have to come at the right time and be shaped in the right way so they fit with that broader learning narrative that you're working on. And it's the data and the behavioral insights that really can help make the right decisions with regards to how to help learners get through their programs of study.
Yeah, I'd like to share from a content standpoint something that I'd come across as a use case, right? So, and Sowmya, you touched upon the whole accessibility as an element, right? Which is now sort of being addressed through these digital platforms. So even from a content standpoint, we'd come across a use case where how do we tailor the content, and how we personalize content to make it accessible to the right kind of, to sort of make it fully accessible. So the use case was around taking content in its original form, but then changing that on the fly, or dynamically generating new content, which is more accessible in terms of having alternate text or having audio descriptions for images and so on and so forth. So I think the possibilities are limitless, and some of these use cases are quite fascinating, and the fact that we have these new age systems, AI and data systems to enable them is just very exciting. Yeah. With that, I'll go to the next one. And Joel, you touched upon this in your response to the content question, but I want to understand from you. You're collecting. Of course, you've got a base of end users and consumers, both organizations and individuals. You must be collecting, of course, with consent, a lot of data points around their learning journeys. Now, the digital first platforms today, unlike the traditional platforms, allow you to have access to this and sort of make meaning out of this data. What sort of, if you could throw some light on the kind of analytics that you're able to generate and how that is helping the learners and how that's helping you create the right kind of content and learning paths for the learners.
I think,
Maybe you can, yeah, go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Sowmya.
go ahead, Joe.
No, please go ahead.
So I think AI-powered, learner analytics offers a deeper and more nuanced view of learner behaviors, performance, and like their engagement with the content, which the traditional systems possibly, couldn't offer. I mean, we've had to be in classrooms. I mean, it had its own experience and richness, but I think we have an opportunity where we can bring that richness in, layer on top of all the potential aspects of data or scenarios and behavioral patterns or emotions that we can collect and analyze and feed it back to see how we can provide more adaptive or engaging content back to the learners. So from that standpoint, I mean, there are n number of potential use cases from an analytics standpoint, be it like just analyzing how the performance around assessments or like their journey during the course, where more time is being spent, where less time is being spent. When we kind of approach, refreshes and stuff, what feedback does it give back to us as, folks who kind of develop those content and experiences? And also, from a faculty standpoint or an educator standpoint, to be able to analyze the learner journey to understand the learner performances, to see where we could potentially capture the early dropouts, how to re-engage, where to re-engage, what are the gaps, and how we could potentially address those in a cohesive way.
Great.
I really love that,
Okay.
that idea of engagement heat maps. I think it's so interesting to think about, how AI can help us identify areas where, within the content of programs, engagement drops off, and how do we proactively rework, rejig that content so that we don't lose learners along the way. Really having a sense of, what hidden correlations exist in learning. So using machine learning to uncover sort of unexpected patterns that might otherwise be more difficult to get to is a sort of another really helpful use case as we look at sort of online learning. I think also because of the nature of how our programs are structured with our academic partners, it's really important for us to make sure that based on that carousel model, that learners are getting through each one of their modular elements of the program. And so having this kind of data, again, heat maps, early dropout detection, in-depth sort of progress metrics can help, student success teams really support learners through each one of those modular pieces of their programs. And more importantly, be proactive in how they support that more individualized learning journey that students are going through. So I think in the past, there was a sense that sort of online programs were sort of a cookie cutter. Everyone has to do it one way, and that's just how you work through it, something more akin to the distance learning. And I think today, but the programs that we offer through our academic partners anyways are very much becoming much more about personalization and sort of personal care and understanding that if you're doing an online program and you have those ambitions to better yourself, but you need a format that offers the flexibility, it's probably because you have other things going on in your life. And so understanding, and we talked about sort of nudges before, understanding proactively where there might be some challenges that have come up at an individual level or within groups that are going through those modules themselves, and then finding ways to keep those learners on track so they can move through each progressive part of the program is really something that we're focusing on, but we can bring to the table for our partners as well.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add is in current scenario, there is so much potential that we could bring in, but in terms of the ability to embrace and adapt and implement those, I think we still have a long way to go because there is a lot of scope to partner or collaborate more with, our either partners or, the mediums or all those players who we engage with in the process of delivering these content to our end learners. Having said that, I think there is also a layer of responsibility that rests with us when we bring in these kind of AI-driven aspects or advancements to have that layer of clear guidelines and the ethical aspect of it, so that there is some clarity in terms of how these are being delivered and what advantages it brings, so that we are able to embrace it in a more holistic way.
I sort of think about how we work with our partners, and I say this with the utmost respect, but as you launch new programs or develop new programs, and then certainly work through the module sort of evaluation or refresh process, one of the tricky bits is making sure that faculty are able to actively participate in that process, and that we're able to do that in a timely way. And so you think about sort of where the different AI applications sort of reshaping that learner-centric approach to education. Curriculum forecasting is a super interesting topic where basically AI is being used to predict sort of emerging trends that help institutions design sort of future-proof curriculum. And so when you think about things like artificial intelligence or cybersecurity, that as concepts evolve so quickly, this is a really sort of practical way that sort of curriculum forecasting, you think about how do we need to constantly update the content of these programs so that our learners and future graduates are up to date on the most relevant topics in their area of study. So I love that concept of curricular forecasting as one of those really sort of interesting applications of AI in higher education.
Yeah, and I think how this conversation goes, I would like to preempt one of my later questions. You both spoke a bit about partnerships. So, and Joel, this is what your core role at the organization is as well. We as outsiders to the industry understand, of course, that delivering content, or say, have these learning platforms, it's just not you yourself alone doing it. Of course, there's a wider ecosystem at play in terms of partnerships. Now, of course, the most obvious ones are the universities, but if you could lay the land in terms of what do partnerships mean from a learning ecosystem standpoint? What are the players involved? And how is that evolved for this digital first platform? So if you could throw some light on that for our listeners.
Yeah, certainly. I think sort of one of the ironies, the great ironies of sort of top universities, and particularly those that are focused in the STEM fields or technology in general, is that world-leading research is happening within their walls. They've got tons of expertise, intellectual capital around those areas. But sometimes the jump between world-leading research and teaching activities and delivering digitalization in practical terms is very difficult in these top institutions. Yeah. Usually it has to do with, assignment of resources, decision-making, hierarchies, and that ability to all agree on the right way forward. You get a lot of smart people that have different perspectives on what the best pathway is forward. So when I think about what's the evolving role that organizations like Boundless Learning can play for partners, well, because we work with several academic partners globally, we're able to deliver that digitalization in sort of what is something akin to like an outsourced way. They don't have to worry so much about all those internal approval structures. That's not just about the financial side, but it's also sort of design. Basically, partners come to us to help them deliver digitalization as an essential under element of that broader learner journey. And so technology integration is something we're able to offer, and sort of offer best-in-class technology integration, sort of being the leading edge of how to deliver technologies such as AI. We also, I would say, bring that advantage of sort of shared knowledge and expertise, because we work with so many different academic institutions and increasingly with the corporate sector. We're able to bring that broader profile of partnerships we have and the learnings that we have from each of those partnerships to bring that sort of right expertise at the right time, facilitated by technology, to our partners, and otherwise they wouldn't be able to adapt as quickly without the support that we can bring. The third thing I would mention is scalable solutions. Obviously, being able to say, right, what do you need from us and where do you want to grow? Or how is your evolving student base changing what you need to deliver to them over time? And by working with organizations like Boundless Learning, we can quickly adapt and shift the support that we give to them in a way they might not be able to do on their own. And so that's that sort of flexibility. And again, in a marketplace where you're seeing sort of ebbs and flows in higher education, it sort of feels very competitive, and there's sort of, different kind of challenges depending on what market you're based in. So I think sort of those scalable solutions is something that we really can offer. And then, of course, access to specialized resources. I think a lot of institutions are trying to link educational outcomes with career outcomes for their graduates. And so thinking about how we can offer access to really great resources because we have so many partners. Lightcast is a great example in that space. That's something that typically an individual institution wouldn't be able to do because it's sort of out of bounds from a resource perspective for one institution. But if you're able to offer that across several institutions, all of a sudden it's a very valuable resource. And so those are the kind of things we're able to do for our partners. And at a time when certainly in markets like the UK, where there's a lot of pressure on the financial model of institutions, it means they don't have a lot in the way of resources to invest in innovation, and that's really what we can bring from a partnership perspective to top academic institutions, and particularly those that want to have a leading offering in the online space.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's how I could potentially collaborate with Joel and like others from Joel's team to potentially be able to take that partnership to another level. We do have partners, but how could we kind of build a bridge to foster that partnership to a deeper level in, like, let's say, to have enhanced data sharing, or like even to bring in alignment with industry standards and best practices so that we are able to build an ecosystem and framework which kind of in turn helps deliver more value to the learners, right? Like, which potentially would result in more engagement and obviously enhanced content deliverable and value for the learners, and in the process, revenue and profitability.
Great. I think the topic and the sector itself are so exciting. There's so much to unpack across all that we discussed, right? Whether it is the content bit, how data and the whole aspect of personalization comes into play, partnerships, Joel, as you explained, in terms of the different players involved, and the way having a platform like yours enables access to all the good content, or say all the great research that's happening across universities, and it's sort of shared across the globe. I'd like to sort of, and we'll maybe do another session to go a little deeper into some of those aspects. So this was a great sort of curtain raiser. I would like to end this session with something personal, right? So we have been talking for the last 20-25 minutes about learning. I would like to know from both of you, and then I'll share my bit as well. What are you learning today, right? What is it that it could be anything? It could be something formal. It could be something on as a hobby or something. I'd like to know, what are you learning? What's the platform that you're using for this learning? And how's that experience been? Maybe we'll start with you, Joel.
Yeah, of course, happy to. So I guess something, in addition to what I do on a day-to-day basis with Boundless Learning, and I love what we're doing. I think it's important work, and it's helping institutions sort of adapt their approach to continuing to help the most qualified learners advance their careers in many ways. But one thing that I'm thinking a lot about outside of work is digital transformation in global higher education. When I say digital transformation, I mean sort of the evolving business models that different institutions deploy to stay relevant and compete in the market for higher education, let's say, and then obviously the role that technology plays in the facilitation of that sort of dynamism in the industry. And I think sometimes when you talk about education from that perspective, people sometimes recoil and say, education is not a business. And what my point is that, big picture, I really believe in the role that universities play in society. It's really, really important, the role that universities play, not just from a research and applied research perspective, but the impact it has on people's lives, and certainly learners who go through and use education as a way to advance their careers and their lives in a general sense. But that's only possible if universities continue to be a going concern. And so therein lies the interest in what are the adapting models that institutions need to adopt, and how does technology play into that over time. And I think that in markets like the United Kingdom, where something in the range of 140, 145 universities, and a lot of those feel almost like pseudo-public institutions, different from, say, the US market, where there's a lot of private regional universities, in addition to the very private sector, and then the state institutions as well. I mean, if you do not have a strong research funding aspect to your business model, your financial model, teaching and learning plays a critical element. And if you're not able to be successful in that space, you don't evolve your model to be attractive to learners over time, then the question is, will you be able to play that critical role in society as a university? And so I'm really interested in this stuff. And so outside of work, I'm doing my PhD at UCL's Faculty of Education Society. So between work and study, I'm pretty busy. But I really love this stuff, and I'm thinking all the time.
All the best. Fantastic. Sowmya?
Yeah, no, I'm, always looking at areas where I could focus on, like on a day-to-day basis. I think for me, learning is not necessarily just from a course standpoint. It's what you kind of learn from within the team, and both soft side and as well as at the skill level. So there is an ongoing process that I have for my own self. So, from a soft side, if you would say, I would, there is an aspect of introspection that goes in terms of what could have gone better and all that. You kind of have your own feedback loop, and you try to create and try and analyze some of the gaps, and potentially enroll into courses, let's say, either based on what is available online in the market or what your own company offers, right? Like today, I think within Boundless, it's like there are courses that the organization offers, but we also tend to pivot outside to other platforms. Beyond that, I think I've always I've been excited about like the hybrid solutions that universities have come up with, or even the certification program. So I've done a bunch of those, be it my master's in technology management coming off of Columbia, or my product leadership certification, which I did as part of product school. But currently I am actually looking into AI leadership course, part of IIT Delhi. That's something I'm looking to enroll starting January.
Fantastic. All the best for that. Just speaking about myself, I think mine is a little more fun related as against the pure work front, because of course while working we do take certifications from our partners, and we always skill ourselves on the subject. Just as a hobby, I'm formally learning to play chess. Like, of course, something that we knew. I mean, I know how to play the basics, but something that I'm investing my time in. The platform that I use is chess.com, and it's great because I've got a formal coach. It's the classic digital learning experience because, of course, it has its own education curriculum in terms of the different styles of play, etc. It has its own playground. So it's just been a lot of fun learning that, on a platform like that. So with that, I think we'll close this particular session. Thanks a lot, Sowmya and Joel. It has been fantastic to know a very different industry than sort of the classic industries that we deal with. It's just amazing the amount of impact that this industry itself will have on the workforce. I think there are topics that we've left for a subsequent conversation, which we'll come to. But the amount of impact that this would have on the future is just phenomenal. And the way data and AI is shaping, I think it was great to have you both on this call and have your insights shared. So thank you so much.